All right. Do we have audio? I actually remembered how to do it, meaning that I took the link and I put it ahead of time, and then I actually remembered how to find it. I know there's a little bit of a delay. So if you're on, I haven't seen you yet, but let me know if you can hear me. It looks like I can't tell if I have audio or not. Let me know if it's working, basically. You can see people are on, and it looks like my audio is going. So let me know if you can hear me or if I'm just talking here with my plants to myself. Um, that will be a big mystery to me as we go on. All right. Thank you, Sandra, to let me know that I'm not just here. Um, I think with so much Zoom activity and like you're there and you're like, oh my gosh, Zoom has worked. And then you're like, wait a second, your mouth is moving and I can't hear you. So, all right, we've done it. Hurrah. Happy Saturday. As you can see, we've moved to a new location, brighter, more growth. I think it's very symbolic for what this community is doing and what we kind of what's at the pillar of this channel, which is growth and working towards the light. So, and I have a much better view. It's not the wall, it's a beautiful view of trees and a little bit of a hill and blue skies, which is a rare occasion for the Pacific Northwest. But let me know where you're listening, watching from. What time of day is it? I would love to know. I think it's all amazing that the internet provides us to be here together, even though it's completely different time zones. It's amazing to me. But yeah, I think there is a bit of a delay. I don't know if I clicked the wrong button. Chances are good that I forgot to click something to make it where it's not so delayed. So let me know where you're watching from or listening from. Ooh, London. I always consider London so fancy. It's a place, I'm like, I guess I've actually been to London's airport, Heathrow, when I was going to the World Championships. I got to land there, but I'm pretty sure when I landed in London, I literally was sprinting um, to get to my flight to Spain. Ooh, Florida. Ooh, Switzerland. All right, Hawaii. Um, okay, cool. Well, the chat's working. It was a little, I don't know if it was mine, whatever. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I've been kind of close, but that was in 2008. So I don't know where you were at that time. And then also let me know if there's any issues with air. I realize the fan is like blowing straight at me because I get really excited, as y'all know. And so I just kind of did some pre planning of like, all right, I feel like I'm going to really get excited today and I want my body to be comfortable. And it is, we've been recently in a kind of a hot spurt here for the Pacific Northwest, meaning that it was 98, 96. Now, I'm originally from Texas, and that's like no big deal. But it's a whole different ballgame when when you don't have Magda, when you don't have like a centralized AC unit. So it's a very different experience. But anyway, it's so good to see everybody. All right. Well, feel free to, for one, thank you for being here. And I'm going to be, there was one question somebody asked, and I think that it's going to be relevant to everybody. So I thought it'd be a good start. But if you have questions, obviously keep them coming in the chat. If you've been on the chat before, when as we're doing it live, I get a little distracted and I forget that I'm the only one who can talk right now with my voice. Y'all are here talking, but text. So if it's like quiet and I'm doing this, then I'm like, oh wait, I forget. Anyway, I wish I could hear all of your voices. That would be amazing. Okay, here we go. So the first question, I forgot to do a screenshot of who it was by. Let me see if I can access that. Oh boy, technical difficulties. Not really, but let's see. It's from, I don't know if it's Am Diary 7 or AM Diary 7. That's who submitted this question. And first of all, I want to say big props. Anybody who ever asks a question, anybody who reaches out for help, I think that takes so much bravery and courage, and it needs to be said because I mean, for most of my life, I spent quiet, confused, thinking that I was an outsider and no one was having these experiences but me. And it was very isolating and lonely. And it's like, not only did I have this pain and did I have this suffering, but I was doing it in silence, which I think is so much harder than being able to at least share it with people or have common people go through common things together. And sometimes when we share, other people can see themselves in our experience, and that can help give them more understanding of themselves. And I think when we see other people go through things, even if we're not directly related to it, we can still learn and it can still profoundly affect our life. So, everyone who's asking questions or sharing their experience, I admire you and you have my respect. I just think it's beautiful and courageous and brave. And this is where I need to upgrade and like have sound effects and maybe like screen effects. I don't even know if that's possible on YouTube. Okay, so this is the question. It says, I'm working on my self concept and I know that I'm worthy. I know that I'm enough, but I'm still scared of getting rejected. Now, I want to know, for y'all that are here right now, I want you to put 1 in the chat if you relate to this. If you feel like you've been working on yourself, you're starting to feel worthy, you believe in it, but you're still feel blocked or scared that you're going to be rejected. Does that relate to anybody? 1? Yeah. I mean, I'd be like 1. Not as much now because I've done a lot more work, and what I'm going to share I think will help you leverage out of this, but I was just curious to see. Okay, wow. I'm also doing my best to understand how to frame videos differently to connect better. It's like such an interesting thing, like learning how to navigate this space and learn to start to heal yourself and learn to break out of these ruts, right? Energetic, psychological ruts. That's one thing. But then learning how to share it with people so they can understand is also, I'm finding a different set of skills. So it's a very interesting process. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Kind of learning to be okay with rejection, because if you get rejected, it isn't for you. That's a good point. Okay. So now that I know that, okay. So, but they're still scared of getting rejected. The question says, I'm telling myself I'm not getting rejected because I'm not enough doesn't make any difference to me. Telling myself I'm not getting rejected. Okay. So basically, the person's saying it's not enough for them to say it, they're not getting the rejection because it's about their worth. I'm just like, yeah, I know that, but the end result is still the same. I got rejected. And it really bothers me. I'm not blaming myself, which is, this would be like, do, 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 air horn, cheering, 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 confetti in the air. What if I just verbally did my sound effects, which I just did? So, okay, not blaming yourself. That's wonderful. I'm not, I'm not, I'm just not doing good with the idea of getting rejected to the point where I can't do most of the things I want in life because I have to get approved by someone else for basically all of these things. And if I get rejected, I feel stuck and helpless. So I want to pause the question there. I think it's important to understand that when it comes to worth and when it comes to I guess self-concept, there's 2 different camps or categories or groups of people. I resonate with the group that would be, this is before when I was first starting, I don't feel good enough and I don't feel other people think I'm good enough, right? It's just like a all in all. I know I'm not good. I know that they don't think I'm good. Okay. Then there's another group of people, and neither of these are wrong or right or better or worse. It's just where you are. And Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen said that the first step of not knowing, or the first step of knowing is not knowing, right? So I don't know why I decided to say that, but I think it's so powerful because it gives you empowerment even in the not knowing, because that is the first step. Okay, so the first group is I don't feel like I'm good enough and no one else does. Now, the second group is I feel like I'm worthy. I feel like I have a lot to offer, but I don't think anyone else can see it, right? So I think that that's really important to start to understand that nothing is wrong with you and what's going on here. It's a relation to the past. So Okay. Now, the other interesting thing is I keep getting rejected to the point where I can't do most of the things I want because I have to get approved by someone else. And then I feel stuck or powerless in the process, right? So anytime you start to feel helpless, hopeless, stuck, powerless, that automatically should send an alarm bell off in your head that you're not in your adult self with your autonomy and power. You're actually in the perspective of your child mind. Again, there is no wrong in this. And we can see that this isn't where your power is, right? If you're in that, I need them to get what I need, my sense of okayness is with them. That means that you are relating to that childhood mind, whereas your caregivers, who do I need to be to get them to say yes to me or to get them to love me or to connect with me so that I can be okay, right? So rather than fighting with this, oh, I've been rejected, I'll never get what I want, they'll never approve of me, that kind of thing, that is in the limbic, or the limbic brain or the fight or flight, or that limited perception of power, which again is that you're looking through the lens of the limiting belief, or you could say you're relating to your experience through the lens of your inner child. So in that moment, rather than trying to problem solve, powerless, helpless, hopeless, or stuck signifies, oh, that's an alarm bell, boop, 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 just the same as a fire alarm goes off for a fire, right, where there's smoke. That should indicate, oh, okay, I am outside my power. I need to stop. I need to start doing my ABCs. I'm aware that this where I am. I'm not seeing it with my adult functioning brain. So I'm going to start then perceiving everything through those limitations. And my sense of power is with them, meaning that I am not in my own power. So all of those indications are we're not in the perspective or state of being that we need to be in to really tap into who you are. You're tapping into where you've been. Understandably so, right? It's valid. You've had experiences. Those are real. But when you project the past into the future, you just recreate the past. And you do this mostly, you being anybody, when you're in that childhood dynamic, when you're in that limiting belief, because you cut off yourself from the strength that you have now with that fully developed mind. So ABC. So rather than trying to problem solve when those things are happening, noticing that those are happening is kind of like if you notice that it's like a road is under construction, or like you look ahead and you see like the construction crew has cut out the road. So like if you go down that road, you're going to crash in the divot and wreck your car. So rather than going down that way and getting all banged up, you're like, oh, I know where this is. I got to start breathing. I've got to take care of myself, come back to myself, breathing, making a new choice. What did you need from that caretaker early on? What did you wish or need? What would have helped you in those moments of childhood from an adult? Reassurance, support, comfort. How can you start doing that for yourself now? Does that make sense? Let me know if that's resonating, because as you start to navigate those powerless feelings differently, you stop sending those same neurological impulses in the same exact way as before. So when you have a new lens to see the world through, you see a new world. Okay. I'm going to stop real quick on the question. I want to go to the chat here. I have 3 different drinks today. I'm very excited about it. This is a little sparkle water. So I forgot to open it beforehand. So now here we go. I got cold. I got warm. I got room temperature. I am ready. My Venus in Taurus has a feast to keep my voice ready to roll. Okay. So somebody says, I have the limiting belief that if I do a lot, people won't live. And I don't know how to affirm to change this. That if I do a lot, I'm not understanding if you do a lot, people won't live. And no apologies. I mean, if I was to write another language, I would not. I mean, it would be like hola. So you're great. You're doing great. See if you can reword that, because I'm not quite understanding you saying that if you do a lot, people won't live. Does that make you feel like you can't do anything. Okay. Allie B, trying to break my pattern of being abused and disrespected. Grew up in this environment and then in relationships recently with my ex-husband, and now seeing it from my child being disrespectful and abusive. Well, I mean, a lot of that is your sense of identity, learning that boundaries are safety and that familiarity, and potentially not the familiarity of abuse, but the aftermath, the feelings of worthlessness, the feelings of powerlessness, the feelings of I don't even know what other ones might come up. Um, so if you can start to understand that and start to dive into that outside those triggers, you'll learn to start setting those boundaries more, right? A boundary is how people can love you deeper because you're saying, no, this, we can't be close if you do this, right? My friend Sarah has helped me understand boundaries better because it's hard because like when no one's ever taught you about them, you're like, well, how do I do them? And then the fear is if I have boundaries, I'll have nobody. So that idea alone is self-rejecting. And if you go into a relationship thinking if I hold boundaries and if I protect myself, I won't have anybody, you'll attract people who will abuse you. And that's not your doing. That's just opening that space because, for one, I'm guessing that that's happened in the past, right? So there's an element of familiarity, even though it's extremely painful. So, yeah, so those feelings of feeling powerless and unimportant, you'll have to start prioritizing yourself and understanding that you can feel powerful, and that's your sense of safety. It could be in your head that being powerless is how you stay safe. Feeling unimportant is how you blend in. Because if you were important, people would think you were selfish. That's when all those other things could be coming up. Okay, let me go back to the first one. I think somebody said she meant to say leave, which makes a lot more sense. Thank you. Um, so I mean, if I do a lot for another one, they won't leave me, and they'll always. It's having a hard time because the little emoji thingy is like right over words. Oh, okay. I have to like scroll down. They always do my SP left. Okay. If I do a lot for others, they won't leave me. So basically, when you have to hyper focus on who you need to be for the other person, self abandonment. And if you're emotionally unavailable to yourself, you'll continue to draw emotionally unavailable people. As you become emotionally available, you start to consider yourself. You start to realize when I focus on others and give them everything, I have nothing left and I deserve to have something. When you start shifting that energy to you, the people who aren't available will not be attractive. You will not want to like when it was me, I was like pleading with the people, please stay, because I was so desperate thinking my okayness was with them. But I was so self-abandoning to myself and so avoidant to my own feelings. No wonder I was allowing people to treat me that way because I didn't prioritize or see my feelings as important at all. So if you can start to understand and look at yourself, when do I say yes to them because I'm afraid they won't leave? Or when do I say yes to them because I'm afraid if I don't say yes, they'll leave? You're leaving yourself in that moment. So the entire point of fixating on them to say, who do I need to be? What do I need to do to keep them? You're trying to avoid being abandoned. But in that process of how you're doing it, you're abandoning yourself. Does that make sense? Um, okay, so candy videos. I think it's eye candy. I do A and B, great. Even A and B is a C. It's like, talk about talking in riddles. An A and a B is a C. Being aware, breathing, and even if you're making the old choice with the new awareness, that is something new. And I was actually listening to something today, and somebody saying basically, it was a little one of those Instagram videos. But it's like when you're in the old pattern that you feel is the only way to get your needs met or to get what you want, when you're in that, but you're conscious of it and you see that it doesn't actually work, you'll be more likely and open to let go of it. Because, like, oh, well, I tried this and I'm aware of why I'm doing it and it's not working. So it's easier to step away. But if you're unconsciously doing it, right, if you just go straight to, I can't make a choice, then that's a whole other thing, because that's autopilot, right? You're just projecting continuously and unconsciously the past into the future. And you also said, I get stuck because I can't make a choice. I don't think that's true. And I'm not invalidating that it's hard, right? But there's most likely a fear that is making you fear that if you make a choice, something bad will happen. Or you could be having a trauma response of freezing when the fear comes up. Freeze, right? Freeze is a trauma response. So outside of that, right, even if all you do is, I'm aware I'm in that old thought pattern, I'm breathing here. Okay, this is a new choice. Even that, right? Not, you could just be overwhelmed and flooded, which is totally common. So when you're outside of that stress response and that fear response, can you start to understand, again, I keep going back to what did you need from a caregiver, right? How did you want to be or need to be comforted when you were young? That's probably going to be a real big indication of what you need now, starting off to get through those moments. The more you do this, the easier it's going to get. And you might have some moments that are really hard, and you might, go back and just go unconscious. That's okay. Learning is not a linear process. And shifting your perspective is the only sustainable source of change, like deep, deep change. So, all right. Okay. I'm going to go back to the end of the question. Okay, so we are understanding that they're feeling stuck and needing to get the approval, right? So they're in that childhood brain feeling powerless, and in that it's self-abandoning, right? Who do I need to be to get them to approve of me? The only thing I can do is being hopeful that I'll not get rejected forever, but it doesn't seem realistic enough for me based on my past. So again, if you base your future off your past, you'll only ever get your past as your future, because even your perceptions, that is what you were looking for. You were looking for rejection, and even assuming future rejection is self-rejection. It's so annoying, in my opinion. Like, I'm not like, oh, this is so obvious. I'm like, this is frustrating, right? Because of all of these tactics, these coping strategies we've created from a very limited environment back in the day. They don't work now. They work very dysfunctionally. They keep us from what we wanted, because the environment that was provided to us didn't have what we wanted or what we needed, honestly. So if you can start to see, oh, no one will, they're only going to reject me. Oh, I'm rejecting me. Okay. Even that, ABC, I'm aware that I'm projecting, they're always going to reject me. I'm rejecting myself. I'm abandoning myself. I'm not emotionally available for myself. Sometimes it can get like, oh, okay. But just seeing that, right? It's a roadmap. If you keep going left at the light, you'll end up at the place, I don't know, the rundown gas station you don't want to go to. If you can remember, oh, when I go to the left, that's not where I want to go to the right. I want to go to that new, I don't know, noodle shop down the road. But if I go left, I can't get to the noodle shop. Only if I go right. That's essentially what's going. There's a fork in the road when these moments come up. But if you assume, oh, what's the point? I'm going to end up at the gas station anyway. Doesn't matter what I do. That removes your ability to go to the fork and make a new choice. Choose the fork. May the fork be with you. But can you start to understand that? It's this very subtle, it feels so subtle. It feels unimportant. And I can't stress enough how that moment is the source of your power. It's the source of what's been hidden. So if you assume, oh, they're going to reject me. Oh, I'm rejecting me. I'm trying to not be rejected, but I'm doing it to start this whole thing off. Okay. What if it were true? What if learning how to use my discernment to see who is available to receive me? Because if I keep looking at people who don't have the space, and I'm like, oh, if I tried to put, where am I? If I tried to put this plant, big one, this feels so funny because I'm like, it feels like I'm opposites. If I had, this is you, right? This is all your energy and love and beauty and just wonder, okay? But you find this shelf, right? This person who has this space is not big enough. Not because you're too big, but this space is limited. So if you're like, oh God, oh, see, they're just going to reject me. Have you ever thought they don't have what you need? They don't offer all the space you need and all your wonder and beauty. So I live this way. Which way am I? I live thinking, it's me. I'm too much. I shouldn't be this way. Who do they need to? Oh, I need to crawl inside this little tiny thing and sacrifice parts of my essence so I can be with them. Okay, I'll do that for you. Can you see how damaging and rejecting and emotionally unavailable, unbeknownst to me, that I was to this energy of myself? And then I kept getting reflections that were so small and so disappointing and so just like, oh, why doesn't it work? Why do I always get this, like, I give this and they give this? Because the spaces I was finding were too small for me. They never offered me what I needed. And that's not to say every relationship, but I'm talking about those painful, repeated things where I was just stuck in my story. When I started to understand this, I started to realize, okay, this person's not bad. That doesn't make them wrong or evil or bad or anything. Some people can be assholes about this. Okay. But how can I start using my discernment to start seeing what spaces have the availability for me? I became a master of self-consideration, self-respect, emotionally available to myself. Does that make sense? Here I go on my tangent. But I guess, yeah, okay. Okay, so now we're going, I just want to finish up on the question. It's difficult to forget the past we have. You keep relating from your past to your future. You don't own yourself right now. You relate to how the people early on treated you. So you're relating your sense of identity through them rather than who you are now and who you choose to be and what your values are. Do you value yourself? Do you believe that other people can see your value? These are critical questions. How do you know and can you gauge somebody has the space for your value in the world? What does that look like in a tangible way? What are your needs to feel safe in situations, right? It could feel safe to be rejected because you won't be seen. This was something I got stuck on that was totally unconscious. Somebody one time told me, like, well, you don't really want a relationship. And I was like, the what? How dare you insult me, right? Totally triggered by it. I mean, subtle, but I was like, oh, how dare you? But she was right, because I found people who wouldn't see me. I was scared to be seen because I felt like I wasn't enough. So I rejected me straight away. So I found people who wouldn't really see me, so I'd stay safe. But it was very disappointing. It was very painful. So if you can start to understand, are you seeing yourself? What are 3 things? For me, consistency, accountability are huge for me to feel safe in relationships. Emotional availability. How do I know somebody's emotionally available? What does that look like to me? I've had to create this in my own way for me to understand when I'm looking and interacting with other people, rather than, if not, I would chase people who were a little too distant. I would try to prove to them rather than the people who were showing up consistency. I'm like, oh, consistently, I'm like, oh, okay, I want you over there, because that was an archetype that felt familiar. I was like, oh, I know how to do this. And there's like an impulsive response in me that wanted to go and try to win them over. That would be friendships and romantic relationships. So when you base your future on your past, you recreate your past. Your perspective, your perceptions will block out anything other than the past. You have to start understanding what does acceptance mean? What does being seen mean? Right? What's the antithesis or the opposition of being rejected? Accepted, seen. Does that feel scary for you? Do you feel like they'll reject you if they really see you? Because I did. So really, either am diary 7 or am diary 7, really think about that. And everybody else who pushed 1, think about, are you self-rejecting before you get rejected because you assume that's what's going to happen? Self-rejection. You're in the energy of, I am bad. Something's wrong with me. How in the world would they accept me? Did you know who somebody treated me bad before? They didn't accept me. Why would you accept me? But you're relating to yourself from the outside in rather than the inside out. Okay. I hope that answered your question, AM Diary 7. Okay. When my SP left the other day, I responded so badly. Now I realize it's because not only that you don't feel enough, but also the thing I just told you to change this. Affirmations, all the techniques are to help you see yourself differently. The power is not in the technique or the affirmation. The power is in your subconscious. The power is letting go of you valuing yourself through how somebody treated you early on who was supposed to take care of you. When that person, that caregiver who had the power early on, treats you bad, treats you like you're not worthy, treats you like you're not good enough, or tells you this, you think, oh, this is who I am. No, this is who they treated you as. This is their trauma. This is their dysfunction. It honestly doesn't have anything to do with your self-worth. Really understand projection, especially from an abusive caretaker, or dissociation from caretakers who were emotionally maybe neglectful. That doesn't make them bad or wrong or good or right, but it certainly shows you that it didn't have to do with you. The more you start to take that back, the more you start to know that your okayness, your sense of safety is with yourself. And responding badly, what does that mean? Did you have a huge response? I mean, I've showed up. There was one time I showed up at somebody's door, banging on their apartment door, drunk, pleading with them to come back to me, be with me, please, because I felt that I was not going to be okay if they weren't in a relationship with me. I was so confused about myself that I thought if they didn't love me, if I didn't have this relationship, it's like I was going to die. But that was a distortion. And that was me and that child brain pleading for my needs to be met from somebody who could not be less interested in that. But if anyone grows up feeling those ways, that nothing that you do matters, or you try so hard and you don't get the love or really connection that you need, you could think, I have to work really hard. I have to get the really good grades. And that template is what's creating the consistent pain and the repeated patterns. Yeah, you didn't so Millie, I think your name is. Yes, that's not bad. You were in pain. You feel desperate because you feel your sense of safety is with them. And it can be so hard in those really deep moments because I can relate to you. I can feel myself like that the next morning I woke up and I didn't even recognize myself because my eyes were so puffy. I'd screamed hysterically through the night, begging this person. By the way, it was my birthday. So she's like, yeah, we're done. I never want to see you again. And I had a table there. So there I was with my puffy eye carrying this table through the apartment, going to meet my friends in 2 hours for a brunch for my birthday. That was a really low moment for me. And I can see now that there were so many ways that I betrayed myself, that I had hurt myself so much and then exposed myself to somebody who was really not very kind. And I gave them these precious parts of myself, but it was with a caretaker who didn't have the space. So I didn't blame myself for that, but I learned from it. Okay. So understanding, if you can start to have some practice, what is it that you need to feel safe, Millie? What does it look like from somebody else? How can you start giving those needs if it's consistency? What I found is consistency is really important for me. And I was absolutely emotionally inconsistent with myself. When I found somebody who was remotely interested or attractive, or there was any sort of romantic thing, I would drop everything in my life. If you look back on my YouTube channel, you can see this directly. You can see where I would just not post. When I first started, it was I posted a couple videos and it was I went offline for months at a time. And it was because I was oh, are they going to get mad? Or, oh, if I don't hang out with them. They weren't saying this. I was assuming rejection if I wasn't the way that I was supposed to be. And that came from in me. And if they weren't okay with me doing something that was important to me, well, they're not the person for me. So you have so much more of a say in it. But if you keep relating to that environment that didn't have space for you, you'll keep saying, you won't even consider yourself. So you'll find people who don't consider you and it'll feel normal. Yes, that person didn't leave because of you, right? So we can have anxious and we have avoidant, right? If getting close to the avoidant is overwhelming and it feels scary, and depending on their background, it can feel like they're in danger. So they leave, they ghost, whatever. That doesn't make that okay. But the more we go after them, the more it pushes on their wound. The more they leave, the more it pushes on our wound. So understand, like, if when you take it personal, this person left, okay, that's not the person you want in a relationship. I don't know what the future is, but having somebody be wishy-washy, having somebody leave you, having somebody not to work through, because there's a difference between connection and relationships. And I've had to learn that the hard way. You can connect with a lot of people, but there's not necessarily the same people will want to build a relationship, which is working through, which is understanding that we all have these triggers, these things. Now, are they going to understand? Are they going to take it personally, leave, whatever, treat you badly? So I would highly encourage you to write down 3 needs. Look at a needs list. Look at a needs list. It's kind of a tongue twister to me. And this is like just Google, needs list, enter, and look at one that kind of, some of them feel like, is this written by AI? This doesn't even feel like it's human emotions, or, what's going on. And other ones you're like, oh my God, that is like, boom. It's like the word is bolded and jumping out. So with that, look at those, pick 3 of the ones that feel like, yes, consistency for me makes me feel safe. When somebody's consistent, even if they're canceling plans, but they communicate and they acknowledge we had plans and they're not able to do them. Oh, thank you for considering me and communicating with me. Life changes. That's okay. But when things aren't acknowledged, that is triggering to me, right? I feel like it's hidden, it's unspoken, and that's like a big trigger for me from my past. So I want transparency, whatever that looks like. Um, so consistency, I would say stability, transparency, for me, those are big. How do I do that to me? What does that look like in my daily life that I can start meeting those needs for myself? And Ali B, to answer your question, emotional availability is, how do I feel safe? This is one way to do it. Considering yourself as being emotionally available. Okay, whoa, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable here. Maybe a friend says they're going to do something, and then at the last minute they're like, oh, hey, by the way, you want to do that thing? And like, it just, something feels like not right. You're like, I don't know about this. Are you going to override your feelings of like, this doesn't really feel like it's about me? Maybe they just are saying this because they don't want to feel guilty. What am I feeling? Right? Really getting that curiosity would be emotionally available. You're valuing your experience to understand it. That is emotional availability. Bypassing it, ignoring it, suppressing it, overlooking red flags, emotionally unavailable. Sweeping things under the rug. There's a difference between forgiving and compromising and having compassion, and bulldozing your boundaries and what makes you feel safe. So, when you understand your needs, as of right now, they can change. When you understand your needs, you write them down. Write 3 needs down after you've Googled it. This is your cat typing. Then you're going to start to ask yourself, how do I do this for me? What does that look like in a tangible way in my life? Okay, write that down. There should be multiple things, and then, in a column, however you want to do it. And then it's going to be, what would other people do in my life? How are other people show me that they're consistent? What do they do that makes me feel safe, right? Consistent communication. Maybe when I share something, they respond back. And if they're not doing that, hey, I noticed that when I'm sharing these things, like, you don't acknowledge them. It would really mean a lot to me and meet a need of feeling seen if you acknowledge and maybe give me some feedback on this, right? You're not saying they're bad. You're not blaming or shaming them, but you're saying, hey, I have this thing that's important for me for us to be close, and I really want that. And this is a way we can do it. I really encourage that for you, Millie. And I encourage you to spend some time in an environment at 10 minutes a day, taking time for you. Maybe it's going on a walk. Maybe it's taking a bath, for your body to relax and calm down and rest. I think that this is going to give you a lot of consideration and love that can really help you understand and potentially shift perspectives about what's going on, so you can gain some empowerment in this. Okay. Sandra, while you were going through this transition, did you experience a time where you just enjoyed being alone, not feeling lonely? Just, yeah, that's a great quote too. I was scared of being alone forever. I was like, oh God, my relationship ended. You, what about you? And no disrespect to the people I've dated in the past. Like, it's not about them, right? It was about me. It's not saying they were like worthless. It was just like I was desperate. So I didn't even consider if we were a good match. I didn't even consider if they could meet my needs or if they were this kind of person, right? That doesn't mean they're bad, but that doesn't mean we're a good fit for a relationship. So, okay. Okay. Yeah. Ali B, dropping things I liked doing when someone is interested. So basically, how can you learn to be you and be in a relationship as opposed to here you are in the relationship, like, whoop, I'm over here, right? Codependent. I have no sense of self. So if you're not respecting and holding your own space, you'll see a reflection of that. The person or the space will be too small for you. And then you'll feel like, wait a second, I'm doing these for you because I'm hyper focused on you, but you're not doing it for me. Well, you're actually not doing it for yourself, and you're not doing it there. You're not creating the behavior in them. I want to make that very, very clear. And when you start doing it for yourself, when other people don't do it, I cannot tell you how unattractive it is. And you might miss people, but at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, but that's not very fun. It's like going to dinner and then they eat and you don't. And you're like, okay, this isn't that great, you know. So if somebody can't meet your needs, or they don't have any interest of growing or interest in growing into that, it's going to be more and more unattractive. Forgot about my coffee. What are the questions? Is that answering people's questions? What else is happening for everyone today? Got in like a third. Oh, it was like it was like a 35-minute rant. Whoa, number one. I mean, I could really talk about this all day because I find it so fascinating, because we get in these things and they just feel like the truth and they're not. And if you would have told me this 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed me. I would not have believed me. I'm like, yeah, I wish that was the case for me. Self-rejecting. But I just didn't know any better. And I was really, really, I've been very blessed to have a really, a mentor and other people who have really helped to show me more of what I believe the truth to be, regardless if that's a spiritual lens or psychological lens, or even like a somatic lens. I believe they're all weaved together. This is my Sag moon coming out, right? The commonality of different religions, but I think, different religions can be limiting in some ways. No disrespect to the religions, but there's a common thread between a lot of religions. And I think that's more in line with the truth as much as we can know it, being in the human body. So, sparkling water sip. Are there any sparkling water fans in the house? It's kind of funny. I don't really drink sparkling water that much. Let's do another tangent. I don't typically drink a lot, only when it's hot. If it's cold outside, no thanks. Which it's like chilly and cold here 9 months out of the year. So we're in our maybe 8 months, sometimes 9, but so only about 2 months. It's like, get me a cold sparkle water. Yeah. Nick, now, if you are a sparkling water fan, what's your brand? Do you have a tried and true? Oh, that's right. Argentina, you are in the Southern hemisphere. And yeah, you're really south. I recently, fancy, Nick. I think I have had a Pellegrino. Whoa, you're getting real. I have never even heard of that. I don't even know how to pronounce that. This is when we need like audio, like, how you can do on like text messages, you can send an audio thing and then I could play it. This one's a Whole Foods one. It's not my favorite, but is it bubbly or boobly? I don't even know how to say it. That's the purple one. there's something special going on between me and that flavor at the moment. But they didn't have it when I was at the store. So you know what? It's okay. Next time, I'm just going to take the extra step and go to the other store. Um, but yeah, it's kind of funny, Millie, you being in Argentina. I don't know how far down you are on like what, I don't even know what those are called. Latitude? I don't know. Is this longitude? That longitude? I don't know. I always am regretful of not looking it up because then I'll bring it up in like the rare moments. But does anyone know? But you know, I'm on the 45th parallel, whatever that means. So I'm halfway between um oh wait. Tomorrow is the final part. Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that was going on. Thank you for that. Well, good luck. I hope it goes well. Um, so I live halfway between the equator and the North Pole, right, in the distance. And then one of my really good friends lives halfway between the South Pole and the equator in New Zealand. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because we have similar climates of sort. It definitely rains way more here. I think technically we're in a. I heard somebody say this. It was like some kind of. It was like a. Again, I wish I could remember because now I'm saying it and I'm like, what was it? Some kind of rainforest, but it wasn't a rainforest. Like they said a specific thing, but we just get so much rain here. But it's not even like in Texas when it rained, it'd be like thunderstorm and like just pouring down. Like if you walk to your car and walk back, you'd be covered, like soaking wet. But here, it's just kind of like you have the misters on. Sometimes it'll rain hard. Most times it's like medium is the most and just like a trace, slight drizzle. But it like does it all the time. So all the plants they do great. It feels funny to water plants in the summertime, but then it gets like super hot, like it was 100 here the other day. Now that we're talking about the weather, yeah, I just don't. I am, yeah. Unfortunately, my geography of South America is not great, but I don't know like in proximity to New Zealand, like where you are, because I've never seen those next to each other. All right. Any other questions? Now that we've taken a sparkling water break, does anyone have any deep questions of the soul? Any other issues you're struggling with? Oh, I feel like I was going to say something. I've been thinking about doing, this is my thinking face. I've been thinking about doing interactive workshops. I just wonder who is interested in those. It'd be like, say, like I've done one, but it would be like, I don't know, say an hour or so of content, me going through it. Like think like an hour long thing. And then at the end, it could be real time questions. If I can figure out how, I would potentially bring a person online, right? Like on the hot seat. And then we could talk about your issue or your situation. And then other people would be listening so they could also learn. But is anyone right now interested in anything like that? Um, Again, it'd probably last about 2 hours and be roughly, I don't know, anywhere from $49 to $65 or something like that. Um, I might just try it out and see. I just think it'd be so like it would be like this, but I could like contact you more and I could have a little bit better, you know, um, presentation of information. Okay. So yeah, I guess put a 1 if you're interested. I'm still thinking there's a big delay, but anyway, okay. I mentioned sports. Yes, my background is sports. From like 9 to 25, I was very intensely committed, obsessed with sports. Since I was 5, when I was 5, I saw the '88 Olympics, and I really wanted to go to it. It's like I saw it on TV, and it felt like home. I don't even know how to describe it other than exactly like that. It just felt so familiar. And so I thought I was going to be a gymnast. Spoiler alert, no. By I think when I was like 12, I was already like 5'4". Right now I'm like 5'7". Um, but yeah, I ended up almost making the Olympic team in track and field shot put. How do you gain the confidence to believe in working on yourself? Working through the fear and social anxiety. Do you have a specific, like, are you talking about how do you do that through like high performance, like a sport, or like maybe in work? Is that how you mean? Or you just mean in general about confidence to work on yourself? I just want to be clear before I go on a tangent. You know I will. I am good for it. Oh, hi, Alan. In the UK. Wow, it's late there. Or is it? I always get confused. Uh, oh, both, but going, gosh, this little, it's kind of cute because there's a little heart on the very bottom of the chat thing, but it's not cute when it covers the letters. Okay. Getting in the gym, fear of judgment. So, um, at the end of the day, either what other people think of you or what you think of yourself, one of those is going to be higher than the other. What I would imagine is that when you were growing up, you had criticism, you had external judgment. Maybe people mocked you, poked fun at you. I don't know if you had older siblings, if it was school. Does anything like that, I won't say ring a bell, but like resonate, Sammy? Oh, almost 7 p.m. Hello, Charlotte. Um, School. Okay. So school, so social, when you go into social, the assumption based on the past, absolutely valid because you had experiences, you went around your peers and judgment. Are you meaning being an only child? I'm assuming that. See, I forgot that I'm the only one who can talk. So I'm like, oh, okay. So that's even more like you felt alienated, criticized for just being when you went around your peers. And then I would imagine being at home felt safe and okay. But anytime you went out, or was it only at school? I want to understand. Okay, so anytime you left your house, it's very damaging as a kid. Now, again, this can all be healed because, basically what I'm understanding is an impression that I can't go outside and be safe. I'm going to be criticized, mocked, or maybe feel like I'm in danger just for being. Does that resonate? Again, I keep forgetting that y'all can't talk. I really wish you could. I think that'd be so. That's why I really want to do the workshops to have like a really interactive and immersive experience and like a limited kind of, you know, probably 20 people or something, like a max or something. So we could all connect. But anyway, that's another tangent. I guess another topic. I don't really look, so I don't really identify with my family either. I mean, and if you feel comfortable when you say I don't really identify with my family, do you mean in terms of race or do you mean in terms of belief or just like what you find interesting? They're not interested, that kind of a thing? Because there's a lot of alienation, right, in this. And, you know, with the social anxiety or that fear of judgment, I wish I remembered. I was reading a book the other day and it was talking about guilt. Uh, there was like this really interesting kind of like unassociated thing that was like hiding under it, but I'm just talking out loud right now or thinking out loud. So with the fear of judgment, right? You're judging yourself at the assumption that you'll be judged. So getting really clear on what fear, not based on then, but based on now, right? Because when you're a little kid, you couldn't stand up for yourself, right? There was these overwhelming powers. Your family was supposed to take care of you, and then if they did, but you still felt bad, you felt bad for being you, right? These ideas that you're not safe for being you, you'll be ridiculed for being you, When you go into public now, that's your state of reference, right? That's the lens you're looking through. But the difference now is you are an adult. Oh, emotionally neglected by both parents. Okay, so then there you go. You go out into the world, you get kind of dumped on with this BS, right? Of these judgments, this criticism, maybe also feeling it with one of your parents. I know you said you're biracial, and witnessing that, and maybe your family, that family member having a hard time, or maybe being very angry, or just feeling like attacked. I get the impression. And then what do you get after that happens? You get nothing. You get more isolation. You get these caretakers who are supposed to help walk you through, these big emotions and help you, like, attune to you. Every single person in here was born and deserved attunement. That is a vital, necessary component to our emotional growth. When we don't get it, we can stay in dysfunctional patterns because we're doing the best we can and no one's ever helped us in those ways. I think emotional neglect can be very hard in the sense that nothing ever happened, right? Usually you hear about trauma as a very physically emotional abuse, or physical abuse, or sexual abuse. But neglect is kind of the hidden trauma, right? It's what didn't happen. It's what wasn't told. And I highly recommend a book to everyone. I'm going to write it in the chat. It's kind of funny too, because you never see what you look like typing, and I still can't see, but I can just like see my peripheral, and it's just like, okay. Adult children of emotionally unavailable parents. That one has really helped me to see of that other side, right? What you didn't get. Now, this doesn't mean that your parents are bad. This doesn't mean that they're horrible parents, right? I don't know the experience of your parents. I don't know what that neglect looked like. So it can be hard to hold two truths, right? That they're okay, they're not bad, and you didn't get what you needed. Or you could be angry at them, and that's okay too, right? We want to honor ourselves. Getting stuck in that perspective is going to create suffering, but allowing ourselves to say, hey, that wasn't okay. That shifts the values to your values, looking out, inside out. So right now, when you go out into the gym, when you go out, into public, it's that fear and that lack of safety. So just like I talked about earlier, what ways do you feel safe? How can you start being that parent that's emotionally available to you when you're in public? Okay, so Charlotte says, I can relate. I was emotionally neglected, and they cared and loved me by filling my physical needs and not psychological, no attunement whatsoever. I learned to navigate my life on my own. So again, I need a little bit more context. Yeah. So when you're going to the gym, because the thing first started is like, how do you get motivated? Or I just hallucinated that. You said working through fear and social anxiety. Get clear on what the fear is. What really bad thing would happen if you go to the gym? You can share it here, or I could just make up one. Let me know which one you want. Say, like, I don't know, somebody looks at you and I don't know, they snicker or they say something, or I don't know. Who has the power in that? It's not them, right? They're being like a child, right? It's like completely inappropriate. You're not doing anything bad. Do you own the rights of your self-image, of your body? Is your body to please them, or not to please, but like, this is something I had a somewhat recent revelation about. Like, when I was growing up, I was so ashamed of my body, like so ashamed. Like I grew really fast, and I had a lot of stretch marks on my arm, and I was also overweight. So like that wasn't a good combo for my skin. So I had stretch marks. I felt so ashamed. Like I cannot, like, it was like consuming. I could not. I played basketball, and they would have the cutoff shirts. I never wore. I would always wear a cutoff shirt underneath, right? And then I was that kid, right? And it's like, never wanted to talk about it. Like, never talked about it with anybody. right? Never got that assurance. I was so ashamed that I never even said it out loud. I was too embarrassed. Then when I go swimming, absolutely not. I'm not showing my body, right? Because they're just flooded with shame because unbeknownst to me, I was living under this idea that I needed to have my body like the other people thought it should be. My body is nobody else's business but my own. So if I'm okay with my body the way it is, that's that. Right. And it's really changed my external judgment because I would judge myself assuming they would judge me. And what was I doing? I was limiting myself because I was afraid of their rejection. But really, the entire time I was experiencing my own rejection. When I started to say, but if I take my shirt off, I'm swimming, right? Like I have a swimsuit on. But if I take get down to my swimsuit and some woman or man thinks it should be a different thing, well, they could think something politically that I don't believe in. They could think something about music that I don't believe in. They could like a food that I think is gross. We have a difference of opinion. It's not the anchor of my self-image. It's not who I relate from, right? If they are okay with me. Oh, I got to, because I was trying to please other people's body and almost like, oh, I don't want to show you this gross thing. But when I realized that, it's like, I don't care about that. I care about more of my own opinion of myself. It changed the way that I see myself and the way I move in the world and the pride I have with myself, because this is my body. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but just starting to see those little hooks of like, what really bad thing would happen? And looking back for me, it's like, oh, they would think my body should be different. Okay. Do they think I should have eaten the breakfast I did? What does it matter? And who cares? And again, like, I'm not saying like you should just zip over there and feel this way and that you're bad for feeling hooked up in that. But if you can just start to shift that perspective, because the hook, in my opinion, is the fear that if they judge you, criticism is going to wreck you. But you have a different set of skills now. You have more emotional potential. You have the ability to keep yourself safe. So an external judgment will not fracture you like it did when you were vulnerable in a situation that didn't have support. Does that make sense, Sammy? Really went on. Sometimes it's like all this stuff's coming up and I'm like, oh, and I like kind of come back to the present. It's like I'm in those. Does that help? Or does it still feel like, and moving in those new spaces, being in the gym, if that's what it's about, and you have this fear and fear can still be there. Fear means you care about something, right? Something important's on the line. But fear doesn't have to sit in the driver's seat, right? I always described it like competing in the world championships or high level meets. You think, oh, these people, they're just so, iron willed. They're everyone. The nerves are there. What you do, though, it's like if you're having a dinner party and fear happens to be a guest, you don't go over there to the corner and like, oh my God, fear, you're here. Oh my God, you're here. I can't believe you're here. You're not supposed to be here. Why are you here? All your other guests you're not interacting with because you're hyper focused that fear's there. Okay, fear can be there. That's fine. That doesn't mean that it means anything. It means you care about the situation. Okay, this is important. All right, fear's here. Okay. And you can talk to courage. You can talk to bravery, fierceness. They're all there too. And when you focus on that and you hold that space closer or hold them closer to you, you'll have what you need to take action in the face of fear. Pushing through to walk through the door. Are you meaning of the gym? Because yeah, it's like if you can, because this is what I think is happening for you, Sammy. There's an implicit fear. Implicit means that an implicit memory doesn't need your conscious awareness to store it. And you do have conscious awareness as well, but there's these deep things, fears. It's the T. Ooh, I love that. It's the T. The implicit is, I'm afraid of that thing if the judgment comes, and then go relating to when you were a little girl or I think when you're a little kid, then you relate to that fear as that crushed little kid. But if you can say, oh, no, I can take care of me now. Oh, they judge me? What is my opinion of the situation? Mind your business. I'm not here to please you. I'm not here to tap dance and make sure I'm okay for you. I'm here for me. And I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go take care of myself. I'm proud of myself for walking through that door. I'm proud of myself for taking care of me. If you have a problem with that, that's not my issue, right? Shifting your perspective of where your safety is, shifting the perspective of where your emotional commitment is. Is it them or you? That could just like, it's radically life-changing, even though it's like so simple. Really getting clear on what that fear is and diving into it. And what really bad thing do I think is going to happen? Because when you can bring it to your adult mind and your, executive function, high functioning mind can process it, you're like, oh, hang on a second. I can handle that. Okay. So yeah. I was trying to remember, I can never remember like how many connections are in our brain. I think every neuron has 10,000 connection points. Let me see. Let's do some, how many neurons do we have in our brain? Does anyone know? Does the class know? Let's see. 100 billion neurons and 100 trillion. I just made up a new word, guys. This is real time. We caught it live. So we have 100 billion with a B neurons. And again, each one of those has 10,000 connection points, meaning that there is over 1 trillion with a T synaptic connection potentials. So we have 100 trillion different potentials, right? And obviously those are going to connect in different ways that is beyond my understanding. But just think about those as just potentials of being, potentials of perspective, potentials of a lens of seeing the world. There's infinite, but we've got to start introspection and examining our current ones so we can break free of the ones that don't serve us anymore. They served you, Sammy. They served you to keep you safe in an environment that couldn't protect you emotionally, right? Now you being here, you asking the questions, you getting the information on how you can ABC. Oh, I'm afraid that if they judge me, something bad's going to happen. I'm in danger. No, I feel good. And one thing you could do before you go to the gym or wherever it is sit in a comfortable space. Maybe it's your bathroom. Maybe it's your closet. Maybe it's on your bed. Maybe there's a special place in your house or apartment or wherever. Maybe it's under a tree. I love trees. And see if you can just focus on your heart and just, it's called heart breathing, but you're going to pretend rather than breathing through your nose, you're going to pretend you're going to take it through your heart, right? And just think of a glowing ball getting bigger and just feeling a sense of safety inside that part of you, and that glowing part. That's your safety. You're the caretaker of that light. And that light is a sense of safety and stability no matter where you go in life. It's always there. When you can have that anchor point, then when you, come back to me. I'm safe here. And proceed on. That's really the difference of making that new choice. Remember, may the fork be with you. The fork in the road. Empowering yourself to make the new choice by having a grounded spot, anchor point inside of you is tremendous. I've done this in my own life, and it's so powerful. I do this. I have this beautiful somatic group. We meet once a week and we do different somatizations. And Stella, who leads the group, she is just incredible. And she's really helped me understand my being in my body more and creating this space kind of in front above my heart. And sometimes I'll be out in public and I'll just feel it. And it's just so calming and so peaceful, right? But if I'm living outside myself too much, if I'm, hyperfixated, I'm not with me. Come back to my anchor point. Every time you do that, you remember who you are and you tap more into the potential of your power and the 100 trillion synaptic potentials. Anyway. Who knew 100 trillion would be relevant to our conversation today? All right, let me look and see. Is this helpful to y'all? Is this resonating? Give me some feedback. Let me know what you're thinking. I mean, really what I'm trying to help y'all to do is learn how to tune to yourself. we didn't learn it as children because most likely we had a lack of attunement, right? An attachment wound, and that attachment wound can then show up in social circles, it can in friendships, it can show up with money, it can show up in romantic relationships, but it's that same distorted part of ourselves, and the distortion is misunderstanding our truth based on an early on experience. So learning to attune to ourselves, we can shuffle through the bullshit and get back and reclaim parts of ourselves, because that's all your shadow is, right? Is you had to fracture and disconnect. So for you, Sammy, it's I would have to talk to you more, but potentially disconnecting with an assertive side of you, because you couldn't be that in the space you were in, right? Maybe if you did try to connect, maybe if you were assertive, maybe bad things, maybe you got in trouble, maybe you got more a cold shoulder. But a lot of the power that is inherently ours is in our shadow. And when we look in it, we revive ourselves. And healing is just coming back to the totality of who we've always been. And when we come back to that, it drops these limitations, because the self-limiting thoughts are basically the dirt on top of the dirt on top of the parts of ourself that we've repressed or fragmented from. But we're really not fragmented from them. It's just a psychological thing. Your self-worth is in shadow. You fragmented from it, but you're not separate from it. It's an illusion that was created in an environment that was too small for you. And you're under the misunderstanding of yourself that your worth is low. So your self-worth, your true worth is in your shadow. And I don't know if everything has a shadow. I've never thought about that. Everything could have a shadow. Let's see. Your videos helped me realize that I sometimes have a self-limiting life, and that's not my fault. Yeah. I mean, our limiting perspective of ourselves are not our fault, right? Like we weren't born. And I mean, some people are like, oh, you choose. Okay, let's just be right here in this lifetime. We can get esoteric and, that's wonderful. That's interesting. And we got to get real right now in a practical way so we can help ourselves, so you can heal, so you can rise up and live your highest potential. Because I believe that when we're all doing that, this world is better for all of us. I'm like deeply inspired and committed, like every day more and more. It took me a little bit to really get more clear about this, but it's like I want to help all of you understand this, because it's been so emotionally liberating, and it allows me to see the world differently and navigate harder things easier, because I don't filter them through my limiting beliefs and low self-worth that I had in the past. So it really is my commitment to help everyone to, get out of shadow, to come back to yourself. And Alan, like you just said, it's not your fault. You are not at fault for the distortions you have of yourself. And now it's your responsibility to take yourself back, right? Not your fault that you got here. And it's now your responsibility and duty to find yourself again. And it's a beautiful experience. It can be very painful, but more so the lessons and the repeated patterns of the pain. And what I found is some of the most painful experience I ever had was when I was going through something that was already painful, and I was self-rejecting and self-abandoning. That's really what was the most heartbreaking times, is not emotionally being there for me. I had left me. So then when something hard happened, it was so lonely, and it just felt like I was dying physically. There was many times. You can ask my friends. They're like, whoa. And I do have really great friends who have been there and very supportive. And I will say that the depth of my friendships is directly proportional to the depth that I'm willing to go with myself. Because I couldn't go deep with anybody else until I really started not being scared to do it with myself, and valuing that as a sense of my safety, that it's important for me to go deep. It's important for me to caretake myself. It's important for me, even my physical body. to really take good care of me. Before, I would want other people to do it, right? Like, I'll just treat myself poorly. And then if I'm in a relationship, then maybe I'll treat myself good because I want to treat them good. It's very codependent. It's very miserable. I can tell you a lot more stories. All right, what else do we have here? So far, I want you to know that my air conditioning situation is almost working too well. I have like a little like flannel wrapped around my legs, but I feel pretty cozy. Um, but I do think it was very good that I got it. And it's so funny to me because these, like, I can't hear anything, right? But I feel so funny if I don't have headphones on when I'm like this, because I think it reminds me of session. So I'm like, where's my ears? Where's my ears? But it does have the microphone. So this is really wonderful to hang out with y'all. And also, um, I had a thing, I had this kind of technical issue with my newsletter thing. Again, I'm not technical, so I'm having, I really have to go into my discomfort, which I'm now really willing to do, to grow this community and channel, because I was so limited based on these stories of like, it's like I had to do this email thing, which I don't even know how to explain to do. I'm not technical like that. It's one of the few things on earth. Well, I don't know everything, right? The few things I know, I really like to do because I like them and I do more of them. So I get more proficient. Doing like setting up a website or redirecting a page or doing domain names, it's like my brain is melting, right? But I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do it. Oh God, it's so hard. And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this for the community, right? And then I did it and I was like, wow, I feel so proud of myself. It's like, how silly. The idea I couldn't do it was all that was stopping me from doing it. Is the idea that I had that since I didn't know how to do it right then, I couldn't do it, which is just such an error of thinking. I'm not bad, but I just didn't understand how to do it. But rather than saying, who knows? What can I Google? Right? It limited me. But then when I'm like, wait a second, this is really important, I'm just going to find my way, give myself permission. And what do you know? I fixed it. I did have some help. Thank goodness for the technical support, but I did it. So short story long, that's my new favorite saying, because you always hear long story short, but short story long, I'm now able to send out emails, and my goal is to send out a weekly email with something um, beneficial or a tip or something I'm thinking through, for you to have that. And if you want to write me back, you can always just respond straight to the email. So just to let you know that if you're on the email list, then you'll be hearing more from me. So, okay, let's see here. And then I'm also interested in building a community so we can kind of do like the chat thing all together, feel supported, feel seen, feel encouraged. If anyone, I'm still looking for the best platform. So if anyone has ideas, email me. And I'll put my email here. Because you know what? It takes a community. Okay. Magda in the house. I mean, I swear sometimes when I'm writing down Mind the Gap, I like think of you because I'm like, we've talked about it so much. Okay. Let's see. Can you talk about inner child work a little bit? Yes. I mean, one thing that has really profoundly changed my relating to inner child work is that your inner child is your limiting beliefs, right? It's your subconscious, because that limiting belief was formed when you were a child. That understanding is from Bethany Webster, who has worked specifically on the mother wound, which, regardless of your gender, is very powerful. It's amazing how that shows up regardless of what kind of mother you had, if she was like narcissistic or if she was loving but maybe a little emotionally unavailable. Understanding the patterns and how they show up get us back to the parts of ourselves that are in our blind spot. So what other ways, like when you say talk about the inner child, I don't know why I'm like, okay, what do we got here? But when you say talk about it a little bit more, like what else would you like me to say, or what question do you have? Also, I put my email, abbyruston.com. Yeah, I guess I just had like a brain burp or something. I'm like, that seems weird. But so if you have an idea for platforms, email them. Even if you put them in here, it will really help me. Patreon, Discord. I'm like, what's the most accessible? And that's where I'm like, this is not my forte in terms of like, it's like one of those things that exists and I can interact with, but like I'm not well versed. So I'm looking for some help. This is me asking y'all for some help. But yeah, let me know, Magda, what you mean about how you want me to talk about it or what question you have. Um, in what way would you like me to talk about it? Okay, Sammy, tips to help my daughter grow up and know she's enough and not earning love, which is my experience. Well, I think that just being that template for her, that your love is not tied up in what she does, it's who she's being, who she is. So no matter what she does, she can never earn love because love is not earned, it's given freely. It's never a transactional thing. And depends how old is she. That might help too of how you can communicate it. But I think it's no matter if she gets an A or a D, if she's first or last, if just being consistent in your love, um, and support, regardless of performance, regardless of any external thing. Which you're a human being too, so you'll have your stuff, and um, I think that Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents is a good book for anybody. And then also potentially, I'm not a parent, so I don't know this specifically, but I think that it could be really beneficial. Because if you can see better the wounds of your childhood, I think it will help you understand um, how to be a more emotionally available parent. Um, the question is, how do I go about it? I mean, what actually does inner child work look like? Where and how to start? Well, the inner child work, in my opinion, is working with your limiting beliefs in the moment, right? Who's driving the bus? Is it your inner child or is it you, your adult self? 2023. I almost said 2023. I got to keep up because it's already July. So the inner child work is what you is going to drive the bus in the moment. Back to the fork. Maybe the fork be with you. The inner child is going to go to the repeated one. She's going to go to the world she knew, which is powerless, stuck, hopeless, helpless, and waiting for the outside to say yes, waiting for the circumstances to change so she can have what she needs. So the reparenting of the reparenting of the inner child is also massive, which is understanding what you needed. What did that part of you yearn for when she was upset? What did she need? Reassurance, support, comfort, right? Joy, fun. How can you start to give yourself that? So in that moment of the fork of minding the gap, understanding her, comforting her, right, in that new choice. And when you're outside the trigger, I mean, it's basically everything we talk about. It's very much linked with inner child work because we're working on the limiting beliefs. We're working on liberating yourself to feel safe and that your sense of okayness is within you. Your inner child, her sense of okayness was in the outside. So inner child, if you're relating your sense of okayness to the outside, oh, I'm in my inner child. Can I break out of that, take care of myself, and then come back from my mind, my adult mind? Does that make sense? All the things that I'm sharing on my channel, I believe, are inner child work. Now, getting clear on what fears you have, right? That can profoundly help. What bad thing will happen if you don't blank? Where's your sense of okayness? I think that is at the foundation of inner child work. And understanding her fears or his or her fears, whatever, that's going to help you reparent yourself. Reparenting that inner child is, I believe, the deep work of inner child work. If you just think of it and in the moment she drives the bus and you're like, why is my life like this? Well, you're missing the moment. Understanding it, understanding the fear in the moment, saying it's okay, and taking the new step. That is the ultimate inner child work. And then understanding your needs. Your inner child, if your inner child does not feel safe, your body will be dysregulated. If you're dysregulated, you won't be able to perceive of reality. You'll perceive of your wounds. You'll perceive of all the negative stuff you fear. You'll attract people who meet those wounds perfectly. That's what makes this stuff so wild, where it's like creating your own reality. It's not so crazy when you even just apply a layer of psychology over it and the somatic elements of what your body does and how dysregulated you can get and how much your anxiety, even like a heart-brain coherence. When you're out of coherence, your heart and your brain, you're foggy minded, you're stressed, you're just making poor decisions, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse, right? Because potentially that inner child feels scared. So you could look back. Again, I don't advocate you looking back through your child's mind. I advocate you kind of taking his hand and, going to those scary parts. Another big thing is to, look back on past experiences. If you were talked down to as a kid, right? Can you see through your adult mind how inappropriate that was? Like, what is wrong with you, right? Can you use your voice and go back to that memory and say, like, what is wrong with you, right? To the adult treating you as a kid that way, you basically standing up for yourself. That one's a little harder to explain. I don't know if that's making sense. Let me know if it is, and if not, I can say it again. Nick, a good one is I just haven't done it yet. When it's something you don't know how to do. Oh yeah, yeah, I know. And then it's like, wait, I can do it. I'm not reliving the past experience with my parents. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one, Alan. The mismanagement. Yeah. And yeah, it's the undeserved treatment of years 0 through 7. And I mean, even when we were all in the womb of our biological mom, that still has an effect. The genes that were passed on, like we were an egg in our mom when our mom was a baby, like in her womb of her mom. It's like crazy because every female possesses all the eggs that she'll ever have when she's born. So the relevancy of all the way back to your grandma, like that is not like, esoteric. That is science. So that's really interesting to think about the influence of your mom's nervous system and your mom's experiences. Now, these are all genes we can turn off when we go to the fork in the road. We embrace that little child who's scared and we make a new choice with a fully emotionally available and regulated adult mind is where the big work comes in. And it's, it's subtle work. It can be very painful and overwhelming, but those moments can be subtle. And when you become a master of self-consideration in that subtle element, your life can radically change. And it will, because you'll no longer see the lens of where you've been and you'll see a tremendous new avenue. And another thing too is when going back full circle to earlier at the start of this, where we're talking about the rejection. When you feel like the only option is rejection, in my living room on the other side of this wall, there's a door to the kitchen, there's a door to the bedrooms, and then there's a closet, and then there's a door to outside. If I'm thinking the only option I have here is rejection, and the rejection is that outside door, that's not true. There's actually other options in the room. But if I'm focused on solely that, that's all I'll be able to see. And you can train yourself to start understanding, wait a second, what if there were more opportunities here? Hang on, I'm really wanting to assume that I'll be rejected, but I'm rejecting me, so I can't do that. Because the whole thing here is I don't want to be rejected, so I can't start by doing it. Okay, all right. Take that little girl, take that little boy, whatever inside. What did I need? I need some reassurance here, right? I need to take care of myself. My sense of okayness is not with them, it's with me. Oh, it feels so scary. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can do this, right? Every time you do that, you're just going to take those neurons, stop firing the old ones and start firing the new ones. and it ends to a tremendously different place. Okay. All right. But yeah, Magda, let me know, because I'm glad that makes sense. And of course, absolutely. Let's see. The little heart is blocking your quote, Alan, your comment. It says a lens. The trouble is I've worn the lens a long time. And that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long you've done it. Now, it will be more comfortable and it'll feel like that's the only truth because there's so many repetitions, but that doesn't have anything to do with your potential. The story that I've done it too long is a story. I'm not invalidating your experience of, you probably have a lot of painful experiences that would reflect or lead you to believe that that's the only way, but it's not the truth. There are many people who, and the perspective change won't take 59 more years. That's the beautiful thing. A shift of perspective of yourself and the mismanagement of your emotions and your emotional experience can be in the blink of an eye. It could take 6 months. It could take 1 month. It could take a day. It took me 8 years to get to where I am because I was so resistant. I thought, no. My mentor was trying to tell me that really he didn't want me to be in. This is a story I was telling myself. I was like, oh, he doesn't want me to be in a relationship. He just wants me to be all good, just myself, and go live on a mountain. Like, this is dumb. I don't like this. And I was so like this with relationships. And then I learned, oh, he wants me to be happy, but I'm thinking that what he's saying is not possible to have a relationship, but it's not possible to have the codependent, extremely externally focused relationship that I've known. It's painful and miserable. And when I started to accept that and release the other thing and started to really see things, they went quickly. Let's see. I need to write these this little heart. I need to write these new thinking and feeling patterns down in a notebook. Yes, I would highly suggest. What I did is really understand the root through my body of my own self-abandonment. That was my path to understanding, because it primarily happened with relationships. But then later on, I found out how much it happened with money. I did it all the time. But the relationship one was the most painful one for me personally. So the other ones were easier because they weren't as painful. But understanding, when I started to get anxious at the thought of abandonment or rejection, when I started to compare based on the assumption I'll be rejected, oh, I'm starting to abandon myself. Oh, okay. Well, if I'm abandoning me, it can't end in not abandonment. So I have to break this habit. So anxiety and comparison. I had to write anxiety, comparison, suspicion, and distrust over and over and over and over. So it was in my brain. Oh, I'm starting to get anxious here. Oh, I'm scared. They're gonna reject me. I'm rejecting me. And like, it took me so many repetitions. But one way I've learned is you can go backwards. You can look at past experiences and learn from them, apply that new wisdom or apply that new information to the future. And that's wisdom. You don't have to keep waiting for the future. You can look through the lens of the past, understand yourself in a different perspective. And it's so radical. Like, understand that, okay, that person's mad at you. They're disappointed in you. Does that have to do with me? Is that my responsibility? Wait a second. I'd never even thought that maybe this has nothing to do with me. Maybe they're in their trauma. And I've been taking it personally, and I've been taking it on and overdutying, which is a form of self-abandonment for lack of, like you said, Alan, misunderstanding or mismanagement based on the past. Those are the kind of ways that, wait a second, and we're not saying like, oh, I'm blameless. I've not done anything. This is all you're doing. No, then that's delusion and another thing, right? But what we're saying is, how can you get clear in that moment? Was this my responsibility? Let me think about it. Because it's these habitual things, especially as especially as a child, if you have been given things and blamed for things and accused of things that were not your responsibility, then you're used to holding them. And then like, okay, well, I got to take care of this to make sure I'm okay. Because as a kid, That was ridiculous. Like a child blaming a kid, an adult blaming a child is the adult's immaturity, not the child's lack of anything, right? But if you were conditioned or programmed to take other people's responsibility, you could keep going through life thinking you have to be the hero, thinking you have to be the caretaker, thinking if somebody accuses you of something or judges you, that it's absolutely personal. And when you do take it personal, you open the door to be affected by it. If you can start to learn discernment, it will change your life, because you can keep the door closed and say, no, that, I hear what you're saying, and I understand that's painful. And, these are my responsibilities. This is not, right? And again, that's not like an absolute, nothing's my responsibility, I'm not accountable for anything, right? We're not doing that. We got to get real with ourselves. We got to do introspection, and that will change your life. Okay. For me, it was a lack of attention and not being heard. Okay. So, Alan, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm off, but you reach outside yourself and like try hard to be heard, try to potentially get attention in different ways. And it might not be verbal. It might be doing a really good job. Maybe being an over caretaker. Maybe somebody needs something, you're like, I'll do it. But is that accurate before I go on? Now we're going to our third beverage of the day. This is just still tap water. Okay, try hard to please them, right? So when you're searching, this is, okay, one day I'm going to have like one of those digital writing pads and I'm going to draw this out. That would be so amazing. Okay, so right now, when nobody attunes to you, so say this is the bubble of you. I don't know why this is so confusing. Okay, this is the bubble of you, right? This is your caretaker early on. We'll make them the whole hand because they were bigger. You deserved to that caretaker to come to you, to attune to you. Are you okay? What do you need? Giving you that attention, making you feel heard, right? But somebody with your wound, which I have that in my own way, you feel, okay, well, I can't stay here and get attuned to, so I need to go to you. I need to go to your world in order to connect. Meaning there are parts of me that I have to abandon so that I can get connection. Because as a kid, that is like oxygen, okay? Now you still do that. You go to them. I'm going to please you so I'll be okay, so we can get connection. There is a part of you that is not hearing you and not giving you attention. Because when you leave them, you're avoiding, you're like abandoning parts of yourself in order to be accepted by them. But in the meantime, you're actually unconsciously reproducing that wound of the lack of attention and not being heard, you to you. Does that make sense, Alan? That's kind of that one's hard for me to explain without writing it down. Maybe that's my own brain, but good afternoon, Albany, New York. So for you, Alan, start asking, is this a yes for me or is this a no for me? Maybe somebody comes up and they have a problem and you're like, ooh, I was supposed to meet my friend, or I was going to plan an activity, or I really need some time off, or I could go work on this thing that would be good for in my best interest. But if you're like, ooh, but I could go do this thing for them. In that moment, is this a yes for me? Is this in my best interest? Does this serve a greater purpose for me? And people would say, oh my God, this is so selfish. Well, that's a whole distortion, that you looking out for you is a form of selfishness. No, it's a form of being full in yourself. Nothing, you cannot give freely unless you have something to give. If you're an empty vessel, that's not a lack of selfishness, that's a lack of connection to yourself, meaning that what you give would be transactional because you would need something from the other person. Does that make sense? Can I get a yes if that makes sense? Like sometimes I have these like things in my head and they entertain me. Okay, now maybe we should go back to bubbles. That was nice. That was a nice call. So for you, Alan, you've got to break the habit of self-abandonment. This was my wound too. Anxiety. Oh man, if I don't please this person, they're going to reject me. They're going to think I'm bad. Oh, I'm rejecting me. I'm abandoning me. I'm not seeing me right now. That's when you're breathing. And I would imagine for you, if you get really anxious, go for a walk, even 10 minutes. The reason I keep saying about walking is because this has nothing to do with exercise, nothing to do with health. This has to do with the fact that your nerve in your eye, all of our nerve, it scans back and forth unconsciously. The scanning of that takes energy from the same source of your amygdala. Your amygdala is your fear scanner. So if you're draining power from your ability to scan for fear, and you're using that body to take action and move, it's going to help your anxiety. It's going to help you feel safe. So it's going to feel scary, but I promise you that breaking the habit of self-abandonment will lead you to opportunities that are actually emotionally available, and situations that have space to see you and hear you, because you're learning how to see and hear yourself and making a choice for you. So drop the mic. But I promise you, Alan, like, it's so much better. The fear that you feel in that moment, the idea of it is not worth the actual beauty on the other side. It's like a small price to pay. It's so much better to walk through that and to choose you and to understand how to hear and see yourself. Yeah. Good. I'm glad. It's my honor. You have things that are worthy of hearing, right? You even sharing this today was you listening to yourself and asking for a need to be met. And that is beautiful. The more you understand what your needs are, the more you know to meet them, the more you ask others to meet them too. That is what it's about. It's beautiful. It's connection. It's being authentic as well. All right. Also, Albany, New York. Wait a second. I'm trying to remember if I've driven through there. One time I drove through upstate New York, but I know I drove through right by Niagara Falls, but we didn't have time to stop. Oh, Albany. I can't remember, but I think that it's in upstate New York, Albany. I could be totally off. So if so, have space for me. But upstate New York is so beautiful. I love driving in the summertime of New England. Like, I got to go to I was going to say March, also known as Maine. So pretty. Got to go whale watching. Didn't see a whale, but it was a good time. I was really nervous about getting motion sick because my mom is prone to getting motion sick, but I was good, thankfully. It's a little bit nerve wracking. I'm like, how far are we going out? And we went far. So I love it. Good. Okay. I'm learning, feeling emotional. Yeah. Let those emotions go, because a lot of that pain, we want it to come up and process, because when we were little, we didn't have the space to feel these things, or even maybe the emotional capacity. I guess that would be space too. But if they come up, that's also a way for you to see and hear yourself, that this is deeply, profoundly important for you. And that's a good thing. Letting these emotions and holding space to say, yeah, it's safe. Yeah, this is important. Those emotions are saying, hey, this matters. And we've got to start making choices and start understanding this so that we can create the environment that we deserve to be in. Okay, so let's see, Debbie. I've only just got here. Hello. But I'd like to know, a lot of teachers say about becoming non-reactive to what's happening outside. However, how do you do this without being emotionally numb and redundant and numb? Well, I think non-reactive can go a lot of different ways. If somebody's crossing your boundary, you know, the best would be to understand that they're having, like, we'll go through it. Okay. The most, let's see, how would you say this? If in your highest level of awareness, you could see, wow, this person's having a reaction. It seems like they've gotten triggered. Okay. I can communicate like, hey, I understand that this is hard for you, and you've crossed my boundary, and that's not okay for me. So, blah, 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 right? You don't have to get really wrapped up in that energy. You can see it for what it is, not take it personally, and also say it's not okay for you to act this way. Okay, that's like kind of woo, yeah, good job, woo woo. Then, maybe you're not quite there yet, and maybe they're having a reaction and you're getting worked up too because it's pushing on your wound and you're feeling scared and you're like, hey, this is a boundary. I'm stepping away from this. This isn't okay with me. And you remove yourself, right? Not having a reaction, I think, I think that gets tied too much in don't, it doesn't affect me. This person's bulldozing me. This person just deeply crossed a boundary, but I'm not going to have a reaction. Well, then essentially it's like have no self-preservation, which again, I can hear non-reactivity and I say, yeah, that's good. And also, I think the interpretation of non-reaction can be very self-harming, especially if you've grown up where you standing up for yourself, you were ridiculed, or if you never even had a chance to stand up for yourself, because like we were talking, Alan, you and I have that wound of feeling like we have to chase other people. So there's so much distortion in that. So no, we do not want to numb ourselves out and be like, they're acting this way and that's fine. I think that eventually, as you learn to take care of yourself, because if somebody's doing something outside of you and you don't feel safe, do not stay in that situation. Ultimately, you can be more non-reactive when you feel a sense of safety and your sense of okayness is within you. That's obviously if somebody's out, if there's a bear outside and you're in your house, you're not going to feel scared as if you're face to face with the bear, right? So you learning that sense of safety, that sense of being able to protect yourself, and regulation is a process. In the meantime, not reacting. I think it's about not responding. You've got to keep yourself safe. And as you're doing that, learn to let go and shift perspectives, to let go of your past, to not project them into the future. But all that's a process. And if you don't feel safe and somebody's like, that's like tapping you and you're feeling dysregulated and they're like, don't react. And just like, that's also self-abandoning and rejecting. Going back to Alan, like that's not seeing or listening to your experience. So how can you see and hear yourself, acknowledge it, get yourself in a safe space, process, grow, evolve, so then you can start to get to that first situation, right? Where, oh, okay, this person's getting triggered. I can understand this isn't personal to me, so I'm not going to take it in, but also it's not okay for you to treat me this way. Does that make sense? Let me know. How do we feel about the coffee right now? You might be asking. It's a little past its prime. I like things really, really, really piping hot. And at this point, it's the same as the tap water. So I don't recommend it. This year, I weaned myself off of, I got into this habit of drinking those coffee creamers that are basically like liquid ice cream. I don't know how I got there. And yet there I was. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And it's just creamer. It's fine. It's like, I think this isn't good. And I started really getting into like researching my microbiome because I didn't know this, but your stomach, your gut can heavily influence your psychological experience, your feelings, your moods. And I'm like, I'm doing all this shadow work. I'm doing all this inner work. And then I'm going to eat stuff that's going to affect, like, I just felt like I was like defeating, like affecting it just by what I was eating. So in my process, this is a short story long, but in my process of like wanting to honor and take care of myself, what did I do? I started to have to really consider and have compassion and really caretake. And yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. And it's been, I had to put that creamer down maybe for the holidays or something special, but every day now I drink this like adaptogen creamer. So it's not like liquid ice cream, but it's better for me. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with y'all. You do need to do a book with, oh, that's a fun idea. I never thought about that. I do want to write a book. I have a couple different, I think two right now that I want to write, but another one about like after maybe in like 20 years after I've learned some more things. Um, Maybe 10 years, I don't know. But yeah, that's a great idea, Alan, to put my sketches and diagrams. People are like, what is this? I think it's so funny too, because like in the last video I talked about, I was homeschooled, I was overweight, I couldn't say my R's, I was gay in a very Christian environment. Like we didn't even celebrate the same holidays. Like I was so different than every place I went, I was not like the other. And that created a lot of insecurities and a lot of hyperfixation on who do I need to be. They can't really know all of me. If they did, they would reject me. So they can know these parts or these parts, but in other places, they could know these parts and those parts. It was very confusing. Now I see it as more of just a different experience because I've never really, fit in, but also I've always fit in. So it's, as a kid, obviously it's harder. But my handwriting has always been a source of embarrassment, honestly, because I grew up homeschooled. And so, like, I don't know, things were just different. And I would write really fast. My brain goes fast and I want to write. And then it was just kind of crazy. And my brother's handwriting is like I forget who said, they're like, you should have been a doctor, to my brother, because his handwriting is kind of crazy. And mine looks really a lot like his in some ways. This is a little different, but yeah, I just thought that was funny that now I'm on videos forever in front of the world using handwriting of sorts. And now I'm like, whatever, I kind of had to just get over it. It's like I needed to do this thing. And then it's kind of funny looking back that I judged myself so much, right? I judged myself. But again, it was in the old frame of I better judge me because I can't really be all of me because they'll reject me. But automatically I rejected me to start things off with. So being more in myself and unapologetic and understanding when I still do that or if I still do it, coming back to myself is now the lessons I'm getting to learn on through YouTube, because that is more growth because it's so much more public, like learning publicly in different ways. It's like I've learned these lessons in these ways, but now I'm learning in this other way, and being criticized and having people want to judge me and not taking it personal, but also having a boundary and standing up for myself. So it's been very interesting. Oh, thanks, Alan. I do have lots of fire in my chart. You've had a lot of people pleasing. Yeah, I am I would have been, if people pleasing was in the Olympics, I would have gone for sure. Maybe been a medal contender. Because it was like people pleasing and so much shame, navigating shame in so many different elements of my life, right? And it's only been really recently where I'm so much more open about where I've been and like unapologetic. And if that makes somebody feel uncomfortable, not taking it personal, like that is a superpower in itself. It's life changing. Like, oh, this is bringing something up for you. Oh, you have a judgment. Okay. But you having a judgment doesn't have to do with me, especially if I'm doing something. If I've made a choice and you have a problem with it, that's not to say that the choice I made is for the, my friend Sarah has this beautiful quote, and I don't know where it comes from, but she says it a lot, and it has really affected me. For the love of myself and the harm of no other. Are you like how beautiful? So if I'm doing something for the love of myself and the harm of no other, and somebody judges me, is that my responsibility, or is that maybe triggering something from their past? And leaving that door closed and not taking it personally allows me my emotional liberation and freedom to authentically be in the world. But that's a very new skill that I've learned. And that's why I'm like, oh my God, I want everyone to know this. And the more I learn, I just want you to know. And I want you to like have this perspective so you can free yourself from all these things that are distracting you from living your authentic life, living and expressing your gifts the way that you deserve to experience. And I deeply believe you being in your best, most authentic self creates a better world for everyone around us, you included. And we all get to experience this higher world and more evolved world. And it's a blessing for all of us. So I want to help. I really do care. And I hope you can feel that. Like you're important. you watching this video live, real time right now, you watching this video in the future, like you are important. I think about it constantly. How can I, create a bigger channel? What do I need to do? How can I be more organized? How can I like really do this in a higher level? Because now I'm more ready to be seen because I've worked through all this stuff. Like YouTube has really been like, okay, you learned all these and that, but wait, there's more. Oh, I love y'all too. And that really is like a huge driving force of like being able to go around the world and meet everybody. I'm like, we all deserve some hugs. We've had so like we're sharing our innermost deep experiences. We all deserve to hug each other and have a good time, have an experience in real life. Um, and so that's a dream of mine. That's a goal um, that I'd like to do. But yeah, really, what I've also experienced is a lot of the things we get caught up on are distractions, and they distract us from our true power. When we get distracted from our true power, we feel disconnected from having what we need. And all of that is a big distraction. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you're trying to do it. And I'm not saying that it's not valid to think that, right? Because we've all got the past, but the past is not your future. The past is not the truth of you. The past did not happen because of you. Your 0 through 7 did not happen because of you. Just repeat that as many times as possible, because that is the truth and the starting point for all, I think, of those. That inner child work, Magda, that you talked about earlier, that is the source of it. What happened to me between 0 and 7 was not my fault. I didn't do anything to deserve that or earn that. And it really had nothing to do with, unfortunately, it had nothing to do with me, and it affected me. And I deserve to heal so I can like get the wisdom and the gold as I alchemize that pain. Okay. Oh, you don't have to lose interest in the thing. Angry Peach, you said it's so like a bad joke. In order to manifest, you have to let go, lose interest. That's not true. Um, manifestation, that sounded funny at first. All it means is revealing outside what's inside. So if you're hyper fixated on a relationship and you want to manifest it, what I'm hearing you say is, oh, I have to not care about it. No, it can't be defining your worth. If you want to be in that relationship because then that will make you feel loved, then you'll have connection, and that's the only source of your needs. It's reflecting you not having that. That's why it's distant. You can deeply go into your needs of connection, love, importance, and start focusing that and building that energy in yourself. And then that thing will come to you, not because you're doing this, but because you've gone to the source of what really was needing attention. So, yes, what you're saying is a bit true, but it's not about like, if I want water and I need it, and they're like, okay, to have some, you have to just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. Well, that's going to lead to dehydration and potentially life-threatening situations, because it's not about you not getting your need met. It's about how you relate to getting your need. And if it's, I have to chase, I have to please, I have to get this relationship to have what I want, that's where the distortion is. And that's where the shift has to happen. Does that make sense, Angry Peach? All right, Alan. I play a game with myself, almost like a split personality thing. I got to get more disciplined. Well, and how do you mean that you play a game with yourself? I'm curious about that. And I feel like I think that we love ourselves so much more than we realize, because our limiting beliefs are there to keep us safe. And that's self-love, right? You don't want things that you care about to get hurt. So at the foundation of even our subconscious, it's about safety, which is about love. Now you could say, well, if my subconscious loved me, well, why doesn't it want me to have what I want? Well, it does, but if it's seen as unsafe, it's going to say, I don't want you to die. I want you to live, right? Love. So it's your adult mind's job to heal those inner child distortions so you can see, oh, what I want is safe. Okay, I'm going to have to move through these what feels scary because it's unknown. when I move through those, oh, now I can see, now I have real life experience that I can stay safe and have what I want. Okay, let's do a couple more. Angry Peach, if you want to respond, if that clears that up. And then also, Alan, what you mean about a split personality. I'm curious. So I try to meditate. Okay. So, okay, Alan, this could be a great time for you where you're like, okay, I know meditation is good for me. Okay. But it's hard. So listening to what is good for you, seeing what is good for you, and doing your best. Maybe it's a guided meditation. Maybe it's a walking meditation. Maybe it's just simply sitting still and listening to the birds, watching the trees. Can you just be in the moment? Can you stop those stories from circulating? Maybe it's Dr. Peter Levine, right? I think it's interesting because Dr. Peter Levine, who's a somatic trauma specialist, he has a technique called the VU technique. I don't know why I keep doing this because I feel uneven. I'm like, oh, I was doing it the wrong way. This thing is like confusing to me. So the VU technique is just you going, VU, right? I feel like I sound like a cruise ship. I've never been on a cruise, but like in ports and stuff, I've heard them. But when you do the VU technique, it's going to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is going to help your body. Hey, we're safe. We're safe here. We're safe. So maybe meditation feels inaccessible, but you can learn to get what you need from different ways of doing it. But listening and hearing and seeing yourself that you want to do meditation because it's good for you, and doing your best to do that, to take care of yourself, could be ultimately what you need to take that action to get what you need, and maybe a little bit different way. So let me know if that helps. All right, Cordelia. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you here. You're not late. You're perfectly on time. We've got a lot to unpack in this live. It was a good time. I have had a wonderful time. Yeah, and like slightly, my little cooling setup was slightly too effective. But hey, I'm not cold, and I'm not hot, and I still have my 3 drinks. Mostly need to drink more water. Okay, second guessing myself. Abandon useful habits and then feeling the shame. And you could feel comfortable feeling shame. So second guessing yourself, lack of confidence, right? Confidence, all it means is trust. So, okay, what if you said, okay, this week for 3 times, no matter what happens, I'm going to try to feel peaceful in my body. Just going to try to downregulate. I'm going to watch the birds. I'm going to go for a walk and just observe. Maybe you listen to theta brain waves or alpha brain waves, right? Just can kind of calm your nervous system. What are ways that you can access that right now? Not in the perfect way. There is no perfect way. That's another thing too. The way that listening to that intuition. So when you make an agreement and you honor it, you're building trust. Make an agreement, honor it, trust. Make an agreement, honor it, trust. You fill that vessel of trust over and over and over. And that is literally the root of confidence, full of trust. When you say, oh, I don't think I can. Oh, this is going to be bad. Oh, I'm rejecting. And probably you had an early on caregiver who second guessed you the way you did it. Oh, that's not right. What are you doing? Oh, I'll do it instead. Something like that. That second guessed voice could be an internalized caregiver. Oftentimes, that's what happens. We have this caregiver who, it could have been out of love. Maybe they got really nervous and scared, like, oh, be careful. Don't do that. Oh, you're going to get hurt. And then we think we're not capable, or we don't have what we need, or we're incompetent. And then we internalize that voice as how to stay safe, and we stay stuck. We stay stuck in that outside misunderstanding of ourselves. So how, Alan, can you understand, okay, I'm going to set these small levels of commitment, and no matter what, I'm going to commit to it. Good, bad, or ugly. That's going to be part of the healing process. But what you're trying to do is break out of the habit of a self-abandonment. because it could be that you feel comfortable in shame, even though it does not feel good. Nothing's wrong with you, right? The birthplace of shame is a caregiver mistreats us or is emotionally unavailable or neglects us, and we think we're the reason. If I was better, if I was able, they would have done it. No, they didn't have the skills, they didn't have the understanding that we needed. We were not the limitation. We were not bad. And again, we talked about this earlier. Taking on what is not yours, you can give that back. Doesn't have to be angry at the caregiver, but say, oh, I thought that you not doing that. Oh, I can see. Yeah, you had a lot of stuff going on. Maybe you were really stressed. That wasn't about me. You can give that back. All right. I think that my brain is now melting. So I think that I'm going to bid you are. I don't know why I'm so confused. I feel like I just keep doing this because I'm like trying to get balanced over here and it feels funny. Um, yeah, this has been wonderful. I love you all. And I'm doing the best. I'm just going to keep digging deeper into my own, um, you know, hurdles, because doing this work with everybody is a huge opportunity for my own growth to share and commit and practice real time what I share with y'all. So I want you to know we are all in this together, and I deeply mean that. And yeah, if you have any ideas about different platforms to do the community with, let me know, because I would love to. I want to do that, especially by fall, is to create a community, and I'm interested in different vantage points, different perspectives. So write me an email. I'll do my email again. I'll do my email again here. Um, oops. Email me there if you would like to um, share anything, your perspective, your opinion. I would love to hear it. Let's see. I got a couple more. Okay, second. Yes. Okay, good, Angry Peach. Yeah, it's not about you, because then that would be suppression. We want to get to the root of why that need outside of you is so important so you can start to meet it. We want to highlight it, but we want to get to the source of it, not the outside kind of illusion. I tried to go all in with Dr. Joe Dispenza, perhaps set times and commitments. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be a 20-minute Dr. Joe one. Maybe you do that once a week. Maybe you do that once every 2 weeks, right? What can you do and promise yourself now and start to build? We don't have to start at a 10. We can start at a 1 and a 2 and a 3. We want to build commitment, right? We want to build that momentum. We want to build that confidence and esteem. And it's a skill. So we're not trying to do a skill set at 10. We got to start small and start to learn this new way of perceiving and listening and honoring yourself. As you do that, I just really deeply believe that everyone's life will change. I was going to do one more thing here. Let's see. I'm like, it's like so funny as I like am on my computer, but y'all are here too. See, like some things just like really entertain me. I just think they're so silly. Okay. And if anyone is interested in a one-on-one, I just put the form in the chat. So you can just fill that out. And if you're interested in doing, I'll pin it. If you're interested in doing a one-on-one session with me, you'll just go to that form, fill it out, and I'll email you. In the meantime, yes, honor yourself, Alan. Me and everybody else in this room want you to honor yourself. The world is better when you honor yourself. Then you share with others how we can honor you too. Then we can connect deeper. The more we connect deeper with ourselves, the more we heal these old dysfunctions and these old distortions of ourselves. We come back into truth with ourselves. And the world is better for it. I promise you. I'm here for it. I'm excited for you to honor yourself. So yeah, I'm getting all pumped up. Good thing I have the fans on. Cool me down. I'm like, yeah, you can see my like old competition energy. It's like I'm very excitable and very, yeah, enthusiastic. So yeah, so in the meantime, so again, the form for the one-on-ones are up there. No pressure to do so if you're interested. I'll be emailing the people on my email list more now that I've fixed the problem. And if you have a idea about platforms or ways that we can come together as a community, email me. I would love to hear anything you have to offer. All ideas are going to be good. Um, and in the meantime, I'll keep creating videos, doing my own work, digging deeper to offer as much as I can to help everybody here. Because I cannot stress this enough. I deeply care about you and your experience, and I do as much as I can to offer solutions and reliefs from any suffering or pain you're going through, especially in those repeated patterns. You deserve better. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to feel your true worth, because it's not gone. You're just disconnected from it, but it's actually still connected. It's a distortion. So I love you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, night, morning, whenever you're watching this. And I will see you on the next video. Goodbye for now. I love y'all.